Hello friends, this is Grief speaking. Today we're looking at another graphic novel adaptation of a classic, The Road by Cormac McCarthy. This version was done by Manu Larsenet, and it's definitely one of the darkest comics I've ever covered. McCarthy is well known for some of the most disturbing novels ever made, and this one isn't just disturbing, it's kind of soul-crushing. It does work great as a graphic novel though. In the book, we get insight by beautifully written descriptions and thoughts, while here so much is told in the gorgeous art alone, and it perfectly captures the dark tone and dismal world of The Road. As I said, this one is pretty dark at times, so fair warning, but that's enough preamble. This is The Road, the graphic novel explained. Fittingly, this comic opens with beautifully horrific imagery. The sky is filled with plumes of ash, blacking out the sun and covering the world in death. Roughly sheltered from the falling ash is a father and his son. The man watches his boy sleep for a moment and then exits the tent to scan the nearby area. The man has clearly seen better days, and so has the world around them. As he looks out with his binoculars, we can see the devastation of the surrounding city. Everything crumbled and broken. The boy wakes up and his father assures him he's close by. Then they pack up their ragged tent and continue down the road. The harsh conditions are clear and the father says they won't survive another winter here. They must keep moving south where it's hopefully warm. After this brief dialogue, they continue on. It's a bleak picture to be sure. The man and child walking alone through an empty and unforgiving environment. But the dark circumstances are captured brilliantly in the art. The two carry what little gear they have in a cart, and after lugging it uphill for a bit, the man needs to stop and rest for a moment. His son asks if he could look through the binoculars, but sees nothing other than the oncoming rain that'll only make travel harder, turning the ash into sticky mud. They push through the cold storm and desperately look for shelter as they follow the road outside the city. Finally, they find a section cut out of a cliff in the forest and take shelter there. After looking for any other signs of light, the man gives his son the go-ahead to light their own lantern. The boy pulls out one of the most valuable things they have, a box of matches, and soon falls asleep next to the dim light of the lantern as the rain pours around them. The next day, the rain has stopped and they find a gas station off the road. Excited to maybe find some food, they run together and search the place, but it's already been plundered. Even the tools in the garage have been taken. Before leaving, the man sees a phone on the wall and picks it up. The boy asks what he's doing, and he puts the phone back down. It's an odd moment, but I think he was hoping to hear a voice on the other end, some connection to the world before. Well, their search isn't completely in vain. They look through the nearby junk pile and find many empty gas cans, each with a few drops of gasoline at the bottom. So they hang them all upside down above a bowl to collect every drop they can, and this serves as fuel for their lantern. Night falls, and as they camp out in the woods, the boy asks his father something. Are they going to die? The man says, at some point, but not now. Right now, they're going south to get warm. The boy asks a follow-up question just as morbid. What would his father do if he did die? The man answers honestly. If his son died, then he would want to die too, so that they could be together. He blows out the lamp and they get to sleep. In the morning, the boy talks about how cold he was in the night, and the father says they couldn't risk starting a fire here. It's too open, and plus, they're out of things to burn. Together, they split a packaged cookie before hitting the road again. Heavy wind begins blowing the ashes about, and so they put on masks as they fight the harsh wind. The father breaks into a wheezing cough at one point and has no choice but to stop as he hacks up a lung and finally vomits. His son is clearly worried, but he says he's fine and they continue. However, we can see that it was blood that he spat out. As they travel, we see another set of beautifully dark images of the fallen world. Torn up buildings, smashed cars, and lifeless trees. Another dark night falls, and the shivering boy tells his father how cold he is. The man does his best to warm him and stares off into the black night. He sees flashes of ash clouds in his mind, and his eyes go wide. Who knows what they've been through already? But it only gets worse from here. The next day, they come upon another city, and in anticipation of danger, the father pulls out a revolver he has stashed in the cart. They walk through the ruins of the city, and as they pass by a dilapidated building, the boy spots what looks like a person down a dark alley. Looking closer, it is a human, but a dead one. Their face decayed over time, and their nose missing. It's a grisly sight, and the father tells his son to come along, reminding him that the things you put into your head are there forever. The boy says, "You forget some things, don't you?" And his father replies, "You forget what you want to remember, and you remember what you want to forget." They pass by more rotted corpses, and then, in a rare and fleeting moment of joy, they ride the cart down the hill on the other side of the city. This is the first and possibly only time you'll see a smile in this story. Eventually, the two run into more rain and decide to take shelter in a wooden shack off the road. On the way in, they see an animal skull intentionally hung on the door, making the father weary. They stop a few feet into the shack when something grabs their attention: 3 bodies hanging from the ceiling, and they decide it's not worth staying here. Later, they find an old supermarket, and once again the man pulls out his revolver. As you might expect, the place is cleaned out, but the father finds some fabric to use, and the boy even gets lucky with a can of beans that rolled under a shelf. All in all, it's better than nothing. As they leave, the father sees a soda machine and takes a look inside. He looks shocked and grabs a nearby sledgehammer to bash the machine open. Sitting inside is a single can of cola, something the boy has never even seen before. His father explains that it's a treat for him and tells him to wait a minute. They come upon a large dam and reservoir where the man leads his son to the water, and together they sit down. The father cracks open the soda and gives it a fizzy whiff before handing it to his son to enjoy. It's worth noting that this comic is mostly black and gray, but the can of soda is colored. It's literally a bright spot in the story. As the boy enjoys the new sensation, his father tells him to drink it all and remember the taste well. After taking a long hard look at the can, the boy realizes he's never going to drink one again. They continue onward through the ash-filled dark and finally stop again, this time with the luxury of starting a fire to warm up the beans. The boy mentions how long it's been since they saw fires on the ridges, and his father suggests that maybe the sects have finally killed each other off. He's referring to the roaming bands of survivors that kill and loot anyone they come across. The kid looks grim and asks his father if he remembers the screams they used to hear, then asks if they were killing people. His father is quiet and suggests they eat the beans. The next day they pass through another city. This time shriveled corpses lay everywhere in plain sight, and the kid can't hide his fear as they pass by. But afterwards, they come upon something well worth it: a waterfall. They run down to the basin below, and the boy is surprised to hear his father encourage him to take a swim if he'd like to. It's cold, but refreshing, and the two strip down to have a swim. It's actually pretty sad once the boy takes off his large bundle of clothes. You can see how thin and emaciated his body is, covered in dirt and scars. His father isn't in any better shape, and looks far older than he probably is, with his long hair and wild beard. Regardless, the two have a little swim by the waterfall. Later, they set up another fire, and the boy asks if they could stay by the waterfall longer, but his father warns him that this is an attraction and more people will come just like they did. They need to leave. Before they go to sleep, the father shows his son a map and points out the road they're following to the south. He says it's called a state road because it belongs to what used to be called the States, but he has no idea what happened to them. In the morning, they boil some water and the father pulls out a can of hot cocoa mix, though it runs out, so he gives the rest to his son, who seems pissed off. He says the father promised he wouldn't do that again. The dad plays dumb, but the boy splits his glass with his father and reminds him what he said himself: if you break small promises, you'll break big ones. Later, they cross over a bridge where they find a box truck upside down. There's nothing in the cab but blood, but the back is still shut, so it's worth a look. The father climbs up on top and uses a bar to pry the back doors open. He notes the horrible smell and looks inside, only to find a pile of dead bodies in the back. It's unclear whether they were staying in here for warmth or if someone was transporting them before the crash and they got trapped inside. Either way, it's a shocking sight. The boy asks if he needs help, and his father tells him that it's empty and that they need to move along. As they travel, the sky lights up red and orange far behind them, and the father suspects it's massive fires reflecting in the clouds of ash. At the same time, he continues coughing violently, which speckles a rag with blood, something the son takes note of. Time passes and the two continue on their travels. Then one day they see a set of footprints across their path in the snow, or ash. Using the binoculars, they actually see the man they belong to and decide to follow him from a distance. Eventually the man trips and falls, resting against an old streetlight. When they approach him, it's clear he's on his deathbed, and his body looks severely damaged. The father suggests maybe he was struck by lightning. They start back to the road as the man lay dying, but the boy asks if they can help him somehow. They argue back and forth for a bit until the father gets very blunt with his son. They have no way to help the man. He's sorry for what happened to him, but they can't change anything. With tears running down his face, the boy stays silent and they continue on, leaving the man to die. In the night, while the boy tends to the fire, his father stands by the cart looking at something: a frayed old wallet with a picture and a note. The picture is of a woman holding an infant. We can only assume this was his wife. And then we see her final note to him: "You can't protect us. I should have done this when there were still 3 bullets left. Sooner or later they'll catch us, rape us, kill us, and eat us. And you don't want to see the truth. You think we're survivors, but we're already dead." The night he was born tore my heart out, so don't ask me for sympathy. Maybe you can handle it. I doubt it. But who knows? I'm going. The implication being that the man's wife and boy's mother decided to opt out of life, something they clearly disagreed about. The father rips up the note and photo and is interrupted by the boy. He asks if there will be any children in the South. The father is clearly doubtful, but leaves the boy with a little hope, saying, maybe so. They go to sleep, and deep in the night, the kid wakes up to a noise in the distance. He leaves for a moment to investigate, and then comes back to wake his father, telling him there are people nearby. The man tells him to stay put, and grabbing his revolver, runs off to sea. Traveling down the road is a large truck surrounded by men, roaming bandits with weapons. Looking like a combination of ragtag militia and an ancient tribe, they move forward. Upon seeing this, the father sprints back to his son and tells him they'll have to run, leaving the cart behind for now. But it's well hidden and they'll come back later. Soon one of the men comes walking into the woods, and in a tense moment the father covers his son's mouth as they hide. Finally, the bandit stops to take a piss, and the father takes the opportunity to catch him off guard, grabbing him and pushing his revolver into his face. The father tells him if he screams, he's dead, then instructs him to take off his mask and get on his knees. With the gun to his head, the father asks the bandit where the truck is headed, but he doesn't know. However, he does mention they have fuel and ammo for their guns. As far as food, they eat whatever they can find. As he says this, he casts an eerie glare at the boy, giving us an idea of exactly what they eat. The bandit says the father wouldn't shoot him, and probably doesn't have much ammo anyway. And as soon as he gets the chance, he jumps towards the boy, pulling a knife to his throat. The art here of the kid's face as the bandit holds a knife to him is the stuff of nightmares, perfectly capturing the terror he must be feeling. However, this is only for a moment, as the father doesn't hesitate to shoot the bandit in the head, instantly killing him, sending a trail of blood through the air and all over the boy's face. Of course, the gunshot rings out, alerting the rest of the roaming men, who take off into the woods. The father hoists the boy onto his back and starts sprinting as fast as he can while his son stares at the body of the bandit, lying with a hole in his head. An image I'm sure he'll never forget. It jumps ahead, and the father and son are hiding on top of a water tower far away. The bandits lit a large fire and are camping out on the road, but tomorrow the father will have to go and take a look. They absolutely have to get the cart back. After being silent since the attack, the boy finally speaks, and he says he wishes he was with his mom. Basically, he wishes he was dead. His father tells him not to say such things, but the boy says he can't help it. The next day, the father prepares to head back to the road to find the cart and tells the kid to wait for him. He gives him the revolver, but the boy refuses until his father yells at him and forces it into his hand. It's a pretty sad panel of this scared little boy holding the revolver with wide eyes. So the man makes his way back to the road, where he finds the remnants of a fire. There are bones and human organs laying about. It's clear that the roaming cannibals did not hesitate to feast upon their recently deceased member. As grisly as it is, this doesn't spark much of a reaction from the father, but what he sees next does. Their cart laying empty on the ground. He lets out a scream at the realization that what little supplies they had are now gone. He fills it with whatever useful material is laying around and heads back, greeting his son with a hug. As they continue on the road, now much worse off and with only one bullet left, the father explains to his son that that's what the bad guys look like, but that his job is to take care of him. Whoever touches his son, he'll kill. The boy then asks if they're still the good guys, and after a moment of thought, his father says yes, and they always will be. Soon they see a small town in the distance with some smoke rising from it. It could be the bandits, but with their food stolen, they have no choice but to check it out and see what they can find. As they enter the town, they quietly start searching some buildings, luckily finding some canned veggies and a bag of raisins. Back on the road, they begin to hear what sounds like a dog in the distance. Sadly, the boy's first question is, "We're not going to kill it, are we?" And his father assures him that they wouldn't. However, they never actually see a dog and eventually camp out in a car under an overpass. In the night, the boy wakes up and sees someone standing and watching them nearby. It's another child. This is something he's never seen before, and without saying anything to his father, the boy runs out of the car chasing after the kid, yelling that he won't hurt him. But the child runs away, and at the same time, the father snatches his son up by the collar, asking him what the hell he's doing. The father thinks he must be seeing things and scolds the kid, saying now they'll have to hide somewhere else. As they move along, the son says that he's afraid for the child, and that if they find him, he could come with them and he'd give him half his food. But his father just says no and rushes ahead. They pass a train tunnel and the father goes to investigate, but inside is pure nightmare fuel. Human heads strung up in some kind of bizarre ritual, as well as torsos that look like they've been partially eaten. There's also trinkets and voodoo dolls spread about the place, and more bodies that look like they were used for inhuman rituals. Eyes are stitched shut, mouths are stuffed with small items, and various body parts littered to the ground. One small detail here in the art is the use of real-life toys, like a minion keychain hanging from a crushed skull. Worst of all are the severed hands of children strung up, one still clutching a pacifier. It's one of the gnarliest few pages in this comic, and a taste of what the roaming blood cults and cannibals are capable of. Later, while the boy sleeps, the father looks at the remaining bullet in his gun. He wakes up his son and says he has to explain something to him about the revolver. It cuts ahead from here, but we can ascertain that he's going to tell him that this bullet is the final option. If things go really bad, it's the last resort. In the morning, the boy asks his father what their long-term goals are, a phrase he heard his father say a long time ago. Well, the man admits he doesn't even remember what those goals were, but their discussion is interrupted when he sees people in the distance with his binos. They quickly hide under some wreckage and watch. Soon, the thundering sound of marching feet arrive. Dozens of men make way down the road, their outfits lined with small trinkets and bones. It looks like this may be the same group that caused the scene in the train tunnel. In such an empty world, it's actually strange to see this many people walking along. Amongst them is a line of pregnant women, and seeing as how there's no children around, I would wager they're being used to breed food for the rest. Absolutely horrific. On top of that, there's also bound up people missing limbs, no doubt used as living cattle that can be butchered and eaten when needed. Through the wreckage, the poor boy watches all of this in terror. After waiting for some time, it seems the cult has passed on, and the boy asks if they were the bad guys, which the father confirms, and he looks pretty worried about the sheer number of them. As they start to head down the road, once again, they realize it's snowing. Father looks frightened as he watches the flakes fill the air. Soon, it's an all-out blizzard, and they struggle to fight through with the cart. Unfortunately, they don't find any suitable shelter, and instead are forced to stop at the tree line, making a crappy cover under a tree. As they nearly freeze to death, the boy asks his father if he would tell him honestly if they were going to die. The father says he doesn't know for sure, but right now, they're not going to die. Eventually, the wind dies down, and the father struggles to wake up his son before they head off through the snow. He tells the son to hurry. They need to find shelter before the storm returns, but it's obvious this kid has no energy left, and he collapses trying to keep pace. Realizing he pushed the kid too hard, the father picks him up and apologizes profusely. After dragging him for who knows how long, the man finally finds a cave in the side of a cliff and gets a fire going. He promises his son that he will never leave him in the darkness. He asks the boy if he believes they're going to die. The boy says he does. They have no food left and are freezing, but the father assures him that they will get to the end of the road. The next day, they find footprints and truck tire tracks in the snow and decide they'll have to stay off the road for a while. This might have actually been a good thing, as they end up finding an old barn and it may have supplies. The boy has a bad feeling and warns his father that they should head back, but they don't have another choice. They have to wait for the snow to cover their tracks, and they desperately need food. Inside, they find a bad sign, a hanging effigy made up of what looks like dog bones. Then they come upon a trap door, and the padlock is new, suggesting there's something valuable hidden underneath. The father grabs a nearby shovel and smashes the lock until it finally breaks. Using a makeshift torch from rags and matches, the two make their way into the dark cellar underneath. They notice a powerful stench, but don't see anything in the dark, until a face appears in the light of the flame. An old man with his eyes sewn shut asking for help. The father and son are stunned when they see what's really down here. A group of naked people starving to death. And what's worse, many of them are missing their limbs, including a small child. It's easily the most disturbing section of this comic, and truly heartbreaking when you realize these people are being stored here like meat to be eaten. They all beg for help while the father grabs his son and they run through the dark toward the exit. The man covers the door with a cabinet, and the son points out figures approaching in the distance, likely the caretakers of this human mill. The father and son run out of the opposite doors and back to the wood where they hide. Here, the father coughs violently and hands the revolver to his son once again, telling him what to do if they find him. It's a pretty dark sequence as the father shows him exactly how to handle the gun in case the worst happens. They put up a cover and rest, and the father breaks into tears at the sight of his sleeping son. In the dark, he carries the boy and their gear back to the road, and they continue on their journey. After days of travel, with only scraps of food, they stop in a shack, and the father decides to make a fire for his freezing boy, but the matches are missing. The boy admits he lost them and starts sobbing and asking for forgiveness. He doesn't know when he dropped them and has been too afraid to mention it. The matches being the last resource they possessed, the father can't help but to put his head in his hands. But ultimately, he tells the kid it's okay. Later, the boy asks if the bandits are going to kill the naked people in the cellar and eat them, and the father answers honestly, that they will. The following day, the boy asks a question that's been worrying him. Would they ever eat anyone? But his father promises him that they would never, no matter what, because they're the good guys. Soon they come upon a farmhouse and search it thoroughly, though once again they find nothing, until the father trips on something and finds a trap door, this one made from steel. They're obviously weary of it because of what happened at the barn, but they must search it, and so once again the father breaks the lock, telling his son that this is what the good guys do. They don't give up. They keep trying. Hanging in the stairwell below is a working flashlight, a helpful tool at the very least. The father tells the boy to stay here while he searches the cellar, and what he finds is astonishing. It's a doomsday bunker, filled with shelves of supplies, including dozens of cans of meat, jarred fruit, jugs of water, and more. He shouts for the boy to come down and see, and when he asks what he found, he simply says, "Everything. I found everything." The boy is in awe at the supplies, including a whole box of cola. That night, the two eat a full meal for the first time in recent memory, and the father even finds some medicine for himself. They sleep in real beds, and when they wake up, they give each other haircuts. The boy even finds some entertainment in the form of some classic books. As they eat dinner together, the boy asks if they should give thanks to the people who left this behind. The father doesn't push back, and so the boy offers up something like a prayer, thanking the people for this food and other stuff. He says if they were still here, they wouldn't eat it no matter how hungry they were, and he's sorry they didn't get to. He concludes by hoping that they're safe in heaven with God. It's a kind of sweet moment, though as he says this prayer, we see the ruined city and several bodies hanging from a crane, a disturbing contrast to the boy's kind words. They enjoy a few more days in the shelter until finally the father says they'll only stay one more day here. Eventually, someone else will find it. The boy says, what if it's good guys that do? But the man doesn't think they'll find any other good guys on the road. So as devastating as it must be, they pack up as much as they can of the supplies and venture down to the road once again. At least this time, much better off. As they travel, the father's coughs get worse, but he promises he'll get better. At this point, they're only 200 miles from the coast, and the disturbing sights of bodies littering the towns they pass through have become common. At one point, they notice a vagabond walking ahead of them with a cane. The father is suspicious that he may be a decoy and that enemies are waiting nearby, so they decide to just watch and follow him for a while. After a few minutes, the old guy notices them, and assuming they're trying to rob him, he makes it clear he doesn't have anything worth taking. They approach him, and the old man sits down and cowers. The boy is immediately sympathetic, but the father has his head on a swivel in case this is a trick of some kind, and finally tells his son they need to move along. However, the boy insists that they give the old man some food, and after a moment of pause, the father grabs a jar of peaches and the boy offers it to the man. He eats it as if it's a 5-star meal. Meanwhile, the father and son argue as the kid wants to help him more. Finally, they settle on allowing the old man to eat dinner with them tonight. When they offer this, the man asks what he has to do in return and is shocked to hear there's no catch. As they sit around the fire, he tells them he's 90, although the father calls bullshit pretty quick, assuming this is a tactic to make people more sympathetic. The old man admits it doesn't work anyway. He says that he's always been on the road and claims he knew this would all happen, but there was no way to properly prepare for it. He says when he heard the voice of the child, he thought it was an angel and that he had died. He never thought he'd hear a child again. The next day, as they start to depart, the old man asks why the boy is so kind. Does he believe in God? The father admits he doesn't know what his son believes in, and the old man leaves him with a profound statement. Tell him there is no God, and we are his prophets. At this, they leave the old man to his fate and continue toward the coast. Afterwards, they take a look at the map, and the father decides that they are only 2 or 3 weeks from the coast now. As they discuss this, the boy points out something surprising. In the distance, they can see what looks like a stag. Not believing their eyes, they approach it, only to discover it's just a wooden cutout, used to advertise a business. You may have noticed at this point there hasn't been a single animal about, not even a mouse. At night, the boy asks his father about the good guys. If there are other good guys, where are they? His father tells him they're all hiding from each other, but he believes they're out there. His son says he believes him. He has to. As they continue onward, it's clear the father's health has taken a turn for the worse. Through his wheezing, he tells his son once again that he'll get better. The boy asks what color the ocean is, and his father says it's blue. As they pass through more towns and find the streets littered with corpses, the father tells his son not to look, once again saying what he puts in his head will be there forever. But the boy says that doesn't matter now. they're already there. At their next camp, they believe someone is following them and make the decision to move further away to watch the road and see who it is. Night falls, and sure enough, they see people walking down the road. They don't look like bandits, but it's hard to make out. One of them looks to be a pregnant woman. Regardless, they pass, and the next day they see smoke up ahead, likely from a fire. The father says they should check it out and see who it was, though the boy is not keen on this idea. The father insists, and they move in toward the smoke. And what they find there is something that will scar the boy forever. I can't really show it, but let's just say a very small body is being roasted above the fire. The father picks up the boy and runs away, apologizing for making him come along. Of everything they've encountered, this one has really affected the kid, and his eyes look blank and black in the dark. He finally speaks up and asks if they had found that baby, could it come with them? And his father says of course it could. After days of travel, the boy climbs upon a hill and shouts for his father. In front of them is the endless sea. They've finally made it to the coast. The father says he was wrong, it's not blue. But they make their way down to the beach and look out at the waves. The boy wonders what's on the other side, and the father jokingly suggests that maybe there's another father and his little boy sitting on the beach on the other side. The son asks if he can swim in it, and despite warnings about how cold it'll be, he strips down and jumps in. The father is disheartened looking at his son, who is nothing but skin and bones at this point, but the kid has a good time swimming in the water. Later, they search a capsized boat and actually find some food as well as medicine. As they start to put together a shelter, the boy says he doesn't feel well and suddenly vomits all over the beach. He has a high fever, and his father bundles him up best he can, but the kid looks worse for the wear. Using some of the medicine he found on the boat, the dad makes a sort of cocktail hoping to bring the fever down. It's kind of heartbreaking as the kid continues apologizing for being sick, and his father tells him it's not his fault. In the night, the boy doesn't look good at all, and the father holds the revolver in his hands looking at the final bullet. He weeps and then says, "I will do what I promised no matter what. I will not send you into the darkness alone." Surprisingly, the boy wakes up the next morning and the fever has passed. He steps out into the sun and says he feels better. This is great news, but something terrible happened in the night. The cart and all of their supplies have gone missing. At this point, the father is pretty fed up and decides to chase after whoever took it. With the cart being so heavy, he's sure they can catch up, and he prays that it's only one person to deal with. The boy can't hide how scared he is. What are they going to do when they find them? After a while, they see their cart and the man who took it. He pulls out a knife on them, but the father aims his revolver at the man and tells him to drop it. The man puts his hands in the air, and the boy begs his father not to kill him. The father demands the man take all of his clothes off and put it in the cart, including his shoes. The man begs him not to leave him like this, saying he'll die without clothes. But the father says he's going to leave the man how he left them, and they turn around with the cart, leaving the man standing naked and shivering in the road. As they walk, the boy cries, feeling terrible about leaving the man like that. He begs his father to help him, saying he was just hungry and desperate. The father stops and asks the boy what he wants to do. And in the next panel, we can see they left the man's clothes in a neat pile along with his boots. The father and son work their way down the coast, scavenging what they can along the way, until, while searching some rubble, someone can be seen watching them from a window of a building. He readies a bow and arrow and fires it at them. In a startling instant, the arrow narrowly misses the father's skull and tears into his cheek, breaking on impact. He cries out to run and picks his son up as they find cover. They manage to get away and hide in an apartment building. Here, the father instructs his son on how to clean and dress the wound best he can, and it's pretty gnarly. It looks like the arrow tore a large patch of his skin off. The boy does a good job though, and his father sincerely thanks him. They move along and the father is in bad shape. His wound looks infected, and finally, he has a serious talk with his son. He tells him that he needs to go on, but he can't go with him. It's been a long time coming. He tells the boy to keep the gun on him at all times, and to keep following the coast toward the south. The son looks at his father and reminds him he said he would never leave him. He doesn't know what he'll do without him. His father tells him even when he's gone, he can still talk to him. He'll just have to pretend at first, and with practice, he'll hear him. The days pass, and the boy searches the beach for supplies when one day he comes back to the tent to find his father not moving. In a solemn and silent moment, the boy says goodbye to his father for the last time. The final portion of the comic is in stellar black and white. It seems some time has passed and the boy is a little older. His father taught him well and he's managed to survive a bit longer. He still has the revolver and the remaining bullet. However, his luck may have just ran out, as a man finds him hiding in the woods. The man is armed with a rifle and orders the boy to come out from the trees. When he sees it's only a boy, he points his gun down and surprisingly, he seems to recognize the kid. He asks where his father is and the boy says he's dead. Then he adds, "I'm not sure what to do." The man says he thinks he should come with him, and the boy asks if he's one of the good guys, And if so, how can he be sure? The man says, "You'll just have to take a shot." After a moment of thinking, the boy asks if he has any kids, and the man says he does, in fact, a little boy and a little girl about his age. Then, in an almost funny moment, the boy asks if they eat people. The man is a little taken aback and assures him that they do not eat people. And with that, he agrees to join the man, and they head off down the road. And that's the end of the story. While this is often described as a disturbing and soul-crushing story, I think despite the obvious bleakness, it does have these little shining moments of hope. When the father and son find the underground shelter, it's such a relief, no matter how brief, because of how much darkness and dread fill the pages. The darker the story, the more important those little moments of humanity become, if it's written well, and I think this story is. There's a lot of theories about this book on what exactly happened to the world. Some popular theories include nuclear fallout, an eruption of a supervolcano, and even the idea that Earth was hit by meteorites. Cormac McCarthy himself said he kind of liked that one. But it doesn't really matter because this story isn't about how the world ended. It's about a father and son surviving through it. Well, what did you guys think of this adaptation? If you've never read The Road before, did you enjoy it? And if you have, how did this version differ from the book? Let me know in the comments. Shout out to Kill Me Katie as always for the intro and outro music, which is likely playing right now, and if you want to see your art at the end of my videos, email me a submission to the address below with a name or social media handle. But I appreciate you guys watching at all. This is Grief speaking. Goodbye, friends.